Good afternoon, everyone. Yes. Hey, that was good. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome distinguished guests to the Ride Home 2015. I'm Colonel Patricia Blassie, sister of First Lieutenant Michael Blassie, and am privileged to be your Masters of Ceremonies for this most significant event this afternoon. I'm delighted to be with you and hope that you've been enjoying your visit to the great city of Americus, Georgia, as we come together during the most special time of year to honor and remember all prisoners of war and missing in action, as well as all family members. There is no better day than to do this on the National POW MIA Recognition Day. I was deeply affected when I heard the following quote: "Dying for your country is not the worst thing that can happen to a soldier. Being forgotten by your country is the inexcusable tragedy." Honor is foremost in our minds and in our hearts. Accountability is paramount. We call for the release of any person if alive, or their remains if killed in action. And we want the return of the missing and fallen to their country, their home, and their family. We truly are committed to keeping the promise until they all come home. Thank you each and every one for joining us this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise if you are able for the presentation of the colors by the Americas Fire and Emergency Services, the National Anthem by Vicki Smith, and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Color guard, halt. Sentry, order, halt. Color guard, there, eight. Present, color.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Will you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Entry, order, up. Alagard, right, east. Sentry, order, up. Forward, march.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Another round of applause for Vicki Smith. That was a beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Thank you. Yes, please take your seats. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Chris Van Cleve. Chris is one of the most prolific and eclectic composers within the industry today. His catalog of more than 600 songs includes styles of folk and rock and country, R&B, jazz, reggae, I think that's the way to say it, and musical theater. As Chris comes to join us, you must know he is still waiting to know the rest of the story about his father, Lieutenant Colonel Walter Shelby Van Cleve, who was shot down as an F-4 fighter pilot over Laos, April 22nd, 1969, and reported killed in action, body not recovered. At that time, Chris was an 18-year-old freshman at Texas Christian University. His brother Tom was only 14. Tragically, Tom took his life at age 32 and left behind a suicide note pointing to unresolved questions about their dad. In 2005, Chris was informed that his father's crash site had been positively identified. This was the last year of his mother's life. Chris and his lovely wife, Judith, of 30 years, had been her caregiver for the last 3 years of her life with Alzheimer's. No human remains have been found or identified for his father or his co-pilot, Lieutenant Vincent Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Van Cleve is here to sing America.
Thank you. America, as many of you might know, was the words were written by Catherine Lee Bates, and I had an experience at University of Virginia where 3 more verses came through to that beautiful first verse. So I haven't sung this very much in public, hence my cheat sheet here. Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood
from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful when we awake to live the dream of love, where all of life's in harmony, at one with heaven above. America, America, may history serve us well. Through those who gave their lives to save and ring our freedom bell. Oh, beautiful when we can see the treasure of your soul, where every human race and creed achieves God's loving goal. America, America, let shine your glorious heart from every woman, man, and child who see how great thou art. Oh, beautiful to know the truth of those born here before, who knew this country's gracious gift was valued even more. America, America, let all who walk thee know the blessedness, the preciousness of life born here to show. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, Chris. There truly is no place like America. Thank you. It is without a doubt that many of you are thinking of our beloved chairman of the Ride Home, Mo, and his lovely wife, Ginny, and with good cause. Some have asked this weekend, what in the world is going on and who is doing what, as new folks were asked to step in their absence. And well, I have a message to all of you from Ginny, written from her heart. What some of you may have noticed or heard and may be speculating about is the absence of Mo and me from this year's Ride Home. I was diagnosed with colon cancer and advised to have surgery. The decision to have surgery today, Friday, September 18th, was made this past Monday. Truth be told, our first and foremost concern was about you and the experience you take from the Ride Home 2015. Mo and I regret not being able to be there to meet our first-time honored guests and the opportunity to again spend time and see those who are not only our guests, but who we now consider our friends. Until they all come home, Ginny. Yes. So, we have an update on Ginny. She came through the surgery just fine and is resting well. Mo has been in contact with our vice chairman, Bulldog, throughout the day, and so we're very thankful to hear that she is doing well. I know this is difficult for everyone, even for those who do not know Ginny and Mo, so I know you will keep them in your thoughts and prayers. So timing is everything, and it's time for the invocation if you so choose to join us. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Reverend Chuck Gass, who many, including Reverend Gass himself, would say needs no introduction. Even so, Reverend Gass serves as the chaplain for the Veterans Administration in Gainesville, Florida, and has been serving our great and mighty God first and foremost for 40 years. This is his 8th year with the Ride Home, and he will now share with us the invocation. Reverend Gass.
Will you join me in a moment of silence? Silence for those who are in this moment in harm's way. Silence for the families who sent them. Silence for those who returned, and especially those who left a part of their soul in a foreign land. Silence for those who once walked among us as honored guests and now walk in glory. Lord, tonight we give you our hearts and humble our spirits. In return, we petition you to allow your Spirit to walk among us, inspire us, empower us. Make this evening special in the hearts of our honored guests, as well in the memories of our host. Empower us to complete this night with dignity that matches the courage of our guests. And when our head hits the pillow tonight, let us say one to another, "It was good today to be among my brothers and sisters." Let us say as a community together, Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Gass. There are so many we want to thank this evening, in particular the members of Georgia Southwestern State University for the hospitality. Year after year, this organization stands with the Ride Home. We are honored here today that the president of this outstanding educational institution is here with us, and I am proud to introduce to you Dr. Charles E. Patterson. Dr. Patterson, please come forward.
Welcome, everybody, to Georgia Southwestern State University. I'd like to address the obvious first, which is I am the most underdressed among you. But you see, I'd met with Mo early in the semester, and he had told me the dates of the event. Unfortunately, as the university president, your calendar is not your own. And so in the last week, I've been both to Atlanta twice, as well as to Rome, Georgia this morning. And I've decided I would race back from Rome to at least take in the ride. And I'm very, very pleased to have reached Americus in time to get out of the suit and into the jeans. So I was very proud to take part in the ride. Thank you. And I will say, in talking with your chairman, Mo, he holds this university in a very special place, as do I, as do our faculty, our students, and our staff of the university. This is the 5th year that we have hosted the Ride Home. It is the first year that I've been involved with it, and I will say I'm very, very impressed. From our facilities group and Arthur in the back, who's standing there attentively looking at me, really does help all of us make sure that this is an event for you. This is your home tonight, and I want you to make the most of it. I really am humbled by the people we have in the room today. I'm just one person, but you are many. And it is great for me to be able to host you again for the 5th year and in the future. So again, welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Patterson. We so appreciate your support and all you and your faculty and staff are doing to educate the next generation. Also with us today is Mr. Charlie Sellers, supervisor of the Andersonville National Historical Site, who is helping to preserve a Confederate POW camp during the Civil War. Although an iconic reminder of the horrors of the Civil War, as hard as some truths are, your efforts are so very important to this nation. May we never forget. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charlie Sellers. Thank you for being here.
Just for what it's worth, Dr. Patterson, I would prefer to be in a t-shirt and jeans, but that's okay. On behalf of the National Park Service and Andersonville National Historic Site, Sherry Fields, our Deputy Regional Director, and I would like to welcome you to Americus, Georgia. I'd like to thank you, each of you, for the opportunity to partner to commemorate National POW and MIA Recognition Day. It's an honor and a privilege to work with the Ride Home. Again, this is my first year as well, and working with Mo and GSW to make this event a success has been an honor and a privilege for me. I want to welcome all of you to come out to Andersonville tomorrow as we continue to commemorate National POW and MIA Recognition Day as we conduct the funeral for 13,000. I appreciate the fact that you came out today. Most of you came out today, and I look forward to the opportunity for you to come out again tomorrow as well. For everyone here, I would like to thank you for the service and the sacrifice to our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. We should never forget the brave men and women who have answered our nation's call and served the cause of freedom in a most special way. The legacy of war isn't just about thousands of white crosses in a military cemetery. It's about empty chairs at a table, and the family members we may never see again, friends we may never meet again, and the lives we may not be able to contribute, who may not be able to contribute, experience love here on earth again. Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to the empty table to my right. There are aspects to the table that I would like for you to consider. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for our missing men. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to duty. The single red rose displayed in the vase reminds us of the life of each of the missing and of the loved ones and the friends of these Americans who keep the faith, awaiting answers. The vase is tied with a red ribbon, a symbol of our continued determination to account for our missing until they all come home. The candle is a guiding light for their journey. The white rose on the folded black flag is a simple message from those prisoners who have returned that their dear friends are remembered each day. A slice of lemon on the bread plate reminds us of the bitter fate of those captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears endured by those missing and by their families who seek answers. The prayer book represents the strength gained through faith to sustain those lost from our country, founded as one nation under God. The glass, it's inverted to symbolize their inability to share in any toast. The chairs are empty, but we will not let them be forgotten. Not 92,000, not 1,000, not 100, not one. They are not forgotten until they all come home. Thank you to the members of Rolling Thunder, Indiana, Chapter 6. We really appreciate your participation today. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mary Scantag, the chairman of the POW Network, an educational nonprofit group founded in 1989, who will be recognizing family members of those who are still missing in action. Mary is also a board member of the Ride Home and Honor Release Return. Welcome, Mary.
If I can ask our MIA family members to please move to the right-hand side of the room over here, I guess it'd be your left, for the ceremony up front. MJ, we'll start calling the names and they can step forward and your escorts can go with them. The unaccounted for, our prisoners of war and missing in action, should be honored, recognized, and remembered, not memorialized. The families of these service members gathered here among you tonight will be called to the front white table so that they and their loved ones can be recognized and remembered. They will turn over the glass. It will be inverted to symbolize the inability of our missing to share in this evening's food and drink. The families will lay a red rose to remind us of the life of the missing, the blood that they have shed among the broken hearts of loved ones and friends of these brave Americans who keep the faith, awaiting answers until they all come home. MIA next of kin, Betty Sue Brown, for Harry D. Tucker, Army Air Corps, World War II, unaccounted for. MIA, next of kin, Sharon Lucas Wall, for John Walter Lucas, Army, World War II, unaccounted for. MIA, next of kin, Gloria Johnson, for Roy Edward Barrow, Army, Korean War, Chosin Reservoir, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, William Hill, for William Grady Hill, Army, Korean War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, David Murray, for Dwayne L. Murray, Army, Korean War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Susan Bradley, for Ralph Porter, Air Force, Korean War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Judy Wade, for Luther H. Story, Army, Korean War, Medal of Honor recipient, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Sharon Ray, for James S. Streetman, Army, Korean War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, John Zimmerly, for John Henry Zimmerly Jr., Air Force, Korean War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Judy Bouchard, for Alan L. Boyer, Army, Vietnam War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Lawrence E. Chanis, for Joseph Y. Echanis, Air Force, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Barbara Zibb, for Robert H. Zibb, civilian, Vietnam War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Doris Maitland, for Andre Guillet, Air Force, Vietnam War, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Dave Braun, for Prentice W. Hicks, Army, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Patricia Hopper, for Earl P. Hopper Jr., Air Force, Vietnam. The remains ID is disputed. MIA next of kin, Jill Hubbs, For Donald Richard Hubbs, Navy, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Pam Kane, for Oscar Moderer, Air Force, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Elaine Mossberg, for Henry Lee Mossberg, Army, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Gloria Bonnie Smith, for Harry Winfield Smith, Air Force, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA Chris Van Cleve, next of kin, MIA Chris Van Cleve, for Walter Van Cleve, Army, Vietnam, unaccounted for. MIA next of kin, Richard Watkins, for Robert J. Watkins Jr., Army, Vietnam, unaccounted for. If you would place your roses in the vases and invert the goblets, please. An anonymous quote reads, "A man can never die as long as someone speaks their name. Forever speak their names." Please return to your seats.
Thank you, Mary. We so appreciate all that you do for POWs and MIAs and all veterans. But a name is so important, and bringing that to our attention and helping us to remember that, we appreciate it very much. And now a moment we've all been waiting for. Norman Hale, the chaplain of the Korean ex-POW organization, will now give the blessing.
It's an honor for me to be here tonight. Look over this crowd. How many of you know me? I was chaplain for the ex-POWs for 39 years. Bill Norwood's to blame for that. I'm not going to preach now tonight, Bill. I might run for president, but let's all pray. How many of you are glad to be an American? You know, if I've ever fought for anything, it's for America and the people that's in it. We are thankful to be here tonight. At our age, Bill, it's good to be anywhere, isn't it? But as we pray for our food, let's bring God back into America one more time. You know, as I listen to the news and everything, and God is being taken out of everything that you can think of, but we're going to thank Him tonight for the blessing that He's given us, the things that we eat, the things that we do, and we're going to give Him honor and glory tonight. If you feel like standing, I would like for you to stand while I say the blessing for the food. Our Heavenly Father, the great I Am, we want to bring you into our lives and our service tonight. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the things that have happened already. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for being so good to us, for being good to America, for giving us this freedom that we have tonight. There's so many places, God, I know that you're not welcome in their country. But God, we welcome you here tonight within our hearts. Now we want to bless the food. God, would you bless it to the nourishment of our bodies. Bless the hands that prepared it. Bless those who are serving it. And God bless those who are eating it. And Lord, we want to pray that thou would be with us this night. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chaplain Hale. Okay, I'm feeling a bit hungry, and I'm sure you are as well. And Cousins Catering, who does such a great job and who has stood strong with the ride home year after year, is saying dinner is ready. The line will form out the door to my left. You'll come around where the catering is, and then you'll come in the back way. And we will go the rows, the first row across, going this way, and then we'll go to the second row across this way, and continue on. And I'm sure the escorts can help us with that as well. So enjoy each other as you enjoy your dinner. Many blessings, and I'll be back with you shortly. Please, first table. Thank you. Yeah, I think we are. It's never easy because the fellowship is so good. It's never easy to ease on in. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you enjoyed your meal as much as I did, but I'll tell you what, Cousins Catering, yes, that was some good food. And I didn't expect the kick in the macaroni and cheese, and that was really good. And oh my goodness. So, and I know it's hard. I hate this part, you know, because everybody is enjoying themselves so much, and fellowship and the discussion. There was never a lull in the entire time that we were having dinner, that all of you are getting to know each other better and sharing time, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So, but we do have a few presentations to make, and like I said earlier, prior to our guest speaker, so who is that? They're good. I need to learn how to do that, that whistle. When I was young, I used to be able to whistle like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we'll go into these presentations, and then we'll go into the rest of our program for this evening. Our first presentation this evening will be by Barb Zib. Barb is the Northeast Coordinator for the National League of Families and is a POW MIA Gold Star family member. She is the sister of Robert Ziv, 4 years Army, enlisted as a civilian and a POW in Cambodia. Barbara, over to you and welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. First person that I need up front is Bob Osley. Bulldog, is he in the building? The next person that needs to come forward is Pam Kane. Mark, please.
I swear I didn't do it.
Mark, don't go away. You were set up. I am also the Massachusetts coordinator for National League of Families, POW, and MIAs. And what I have brought with me is from Governor Charles Baker and our Lieutenant Governor, Karen Polito, proclamations for POW Recognition Day, honoring our 39 still missing. Whoops, sorry, hon. Mark, for all that you do for all us family members with your detailing, your trucking, and all the above, this is being presented to you from the governor, from the state of Massachusetts.
Governor.
Thank you.
Pam Kane, as a friend, a family member, and your support when some of us families go crazy, and we do at times. Sometimes we go off the wall. Otherwise, we wouldn't be National League of Families sometimes. I am presenting this proclamation from the governor of Massachusetts. And yes, I did know you were coming. Yes, you are family. Bob, Mo and Jenny aren't here, and I would like you to accept the proclamation from our governor in the state of Massachusetts for honor, release, and return, and the ride home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I'm not finished. I'll be back. I know you're gonna get me. Thank you. I have one other little speech to make, and my speech is to my returned POWs that were with my brother in Cambodia and have helped me immensely on my case. Some are not here, but some are. Nathan Henry, Thomas Horatio Jacks, Mark Smith, Cordine McMurray, Isaiah McMillan, and Richard Perricone. These gentlemen turned around and sat in a room with me one day and identified photographs on a CD-ROM from JPAC. And that started my case pushing forward because now they had sites. I waited almost a year up until June for DNA results, and unfortunately, the DNA did not belong to Joe DeLong, who passed in that area, and neither did my brother. But they did do results. We now have a gentleman in Hawaii that can't be identified because they have no DNA. And I really, really would like everybody to press forward. World War I, World War II, Korea, to get their DNA into JPAC. We leave men behind. We shouldn't leave them behind at JPAC. They should be able to be identified. So we really need to press with DNA. My heart goes out to my returned POWs because if it wasn't for them, I would not be as far as I am. And I know it took a lot for them to do, to sit there and watch those pictures of who captured them, their site, the waterfalls, the rock formations, and all the above. So those who are still here in the room, would you please stand up? I applaud you for your work. Thank you. I also have copies of those CDs to give to you so you can bring them back to the other guys also. So I really, really, you will be my friends forever, even though you did what you did. I ended up meeting all these gentlemen. I think this is my 4th year. The first year I came, and some of the girls from the league office was like, Barbara, you gotta go, you gotta go. And I'm like, no, that's okay, I'm all set. Finally, they convinced me to come. I did. By the time I went home, 11 of the returned POWs were here that were actually with my brother. And I think we all got some closure from it, I hope so. And to know that he wasn't alone when he died. So everybody that's in this room can have the same story that I have, or some closure, or knowing somebody that knew your loved one, and so on and so forth. I still can't believe that I walked away that week with 11 of the returned POWs that with my brother. So have a good evening, and thank you for your time. Don't forget, DNA.
Thank you, Barb. We wish you all the best in finding Robert. I would now like to introduce you to Max Lofgren. Max is from Willows, California, and the owner of Never Forgotten Inc., and is here to talk to you about a very unique and significant tribute, his POW tribute race car. Is Max here? Welcome, Max. Come on up. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
I've been wounded twice, and I wasn't this nervous. Unbelievable. It's an honor to be here in front of you to share this day, this week, this special time with y'all. After they did the wall in Washington, D.C., we knew something was missing. They weren't really recognizing, at least to me and to my other veteran friends and families, they weren't recognizing the POW MIAs and their families and the veterans that supported them. We didn't want to do anything negative because we were seeing that just wasn't working anymore. And there was so much negativity for the Vietnam veterans. We thought, there's got to be a better way. So we decided to take an old 55 Chevy that had been abandoned, and restore it, and we're going to put it on the drag strip. We're going to put the POW logos on the doors. And when we drew that out, it kind of looked like Mayberry RFD. It just didn't look right. And then we were lucky enough to meet somebody, a couple people from the National League of Families and the POW Network. And we all know Mary. And we explained to her what we wanted to do. We wanted to honor the POW MIAs, and holy cow, we don't know who they are. We don't have all their names. And we really didn't have a plan yet. Well, Mary took care of that, her and Chuck. They provide us with 2,215 names. In 1993, that's how many MIAs there still were. So we decided to put their names on the car. And we didn't know how we were going to do it. And we ran into a few sign people, and the prices were outrageous. And we said, well, we can do this ourselves. So we went to a sign company. We learned how to do a little typing, and the vinyl stuff comes out. And we put 2,215 names on our POW car in honor of all the POWs, MIAs, and the families. And it was all done in vinyl. It was done by the year, alphabetical for each year, rather than chronologically. It made it easier for us to find those names when people would ask us, who is that and where are they, you know. And they got confused. They thought it was like the wall, like, is this all the KIAs? We go, no, this is the POW MIAs. And we headed to the drag strip, and the response was incredible. One of the Hollywood producers saw the car and wanted to video the car. So for 14 hours, they videoed it. They did 2 PSA, public service announcement commercials. They aired it on 12 cable networks for 3 months, and that gave us national exposure. And I met Jerry Driscoll, one of the POWs, Bob Jeffries, Bill Butler, and something was missing. I had just the MIAs on the car, and I was realizing the bond that the POWs have is even as strong as with all of us Vietnam veterans or Korean veterans. And I said, you know what, we got to put all the names on there. So we went back to the POW network, to Mary and Chuck, and now they gave us 3,578 names. And the car's only so big. So we ended up with 1/4-inch vinyl letters, and we did the same thing all over again, but this time we made it look like the wall in Washington, D.C. We started in 1952. Well, that's during the Korean War. Well, there were 6 American advisors that were lost in Vietnam during the Korean War, and they were kind of really being forgotten. And so we added their names on there, and then we took off from 1959 to 75 by the year alphabetical. It takes us about 500 hours to put those names on the car. You got to take the vinyl, you pick and pluck the center, the O's, the A's, the P's, the R's, and the D's. You put on each name, you put the clear coat over it. Looks pretty nice. Now we're meeting more and more POWs, more and more family members, and the race world is really kicking in. They're very patriotic, by the way. Then we started getting requests to go here, go there. We did less and less racing, more and more events, more and more shows. And we started educating ourselves a little bit more about the issues. And we were honored by some of the POWs we met who said, yes, you're doing a good job. I made it very clear to all the people that helped me that no war stories and no politics. We had to keep that out of it and just try to honor these guys. And it would creep into the story once in a while. And an example is, one time as combat vets, we're all telling our stories, and each story gets a little better, the snow gets a little deeper, the walk gets a little further. And this one guy's being real quiet. And finally it was his turn to talk, and he goes, you know what? I served my country more than all you guys. Yeah, what'd you do, man? He goes, I was a cook. He really did serve his country. In the meantime, I had a problem with what we did with the car, and I had a lot of help. I did not build this car by myself. If I say I do mean we, because it took a lot of other veterans, family, friends, neighbors to help us out. The merchants were fantastic helping me out, us out. But I had their names in vinyl, and this body bag thing kept in my mind. Veterans end up in body bags, and I had their names in plastic. So we took it all off. And then the process started all over again. We got all the names again. We went to the companies. We got all the vinyls. 500 hours later, we had all the names on again. This time we painted the car silver. We used the vinyl letters as a guide. We picked and plucked the center, the O's, the A's, the P's, the R's, and the D's, and we put on each name one at a time. painted black over that, pulled every letter off with a scalpel, one at a time. 5 bottles of Jack Daniels later, we had the clear coat on there. And that's true. But again, without the help of everybody, all the veterans, this wouldn't have happened. Again, the POW network has been fantastic. As you all know, we do pop a lot of phonies from time to time, and Mary and Chuck have just been fantastic with following up and taking care of that business. There's a lot of people out there who say things that aren't quite true. Again, it's an honor to be here. We have the POW car. If you get a chance, we'll be at Walmart tomorrow morning. Please stop by. We'd like the POWs who have not signed the car to please sign the back of it and to sign our book that says "We Came Home." And just so you know, we have a dream still. And our dream is to donate this car to the National League of Families to give to a museum. So right now we're in the process of talking to some people who have museums. There's one in Portland, Maine. And I think he's called the Keeper of the Flame, and I understand that the POWs give him things, and he's the one who puts it in the Smithsonian or the Pensacola Naval Museum. And so, and I have some things that he would like to have that people have given us over the years, including I even have the window of a C-141, the Hanoi taxi, which is about 300 pounds and not easy to carry around. But if we can do that, it'll be there for generations to come. A hot rod is kind of neutral ground. It draws people in, and that's kind of the beauty of it too. And they're curious. They come up and they see POW and they go, "What Indian tribe is that?" So we educate them right away about what's going on. And that's what we do. So if you get a chance, stop by and see it. It is very loud if we start it up. I apologize ahead of time if it hurts your ears, but it's 1,100 horsepower. And for the jet jockeys out there, we did race an F-15 fighter jet. We hit 188 miles an hour, and we beat him until he passed us. So, God bless y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. What a distinctive way to honor. And creative as well. So thank you, Max. Now I would like to call our next guest, Mr. Morrison, Robert Morrison of the VFW in Texas, and will Bulldog Osley, our vice chairman of the Ride Home, join him on the podium.
Good evening, everyone. I'm from the VFW. My name's Robert Morrison, and we had what we called follow the money. In other words, we sold dog tags. We took the dog tags to the wall on Memorial Day by motorcycle. Then we took the proceeds from selling them dog tags to bring to you. So we call it Follow the Money Run. And we brought the dog tags here, or the money from the dog tags here. And Kat, where is she?
Kat McLaughlin.
Thank you so much. She made a special patch for us called Follow the Money. So we thank you. And with this, we had $750 to bring. And I was kind of embarrassed with that. Before we left, people at the post just started throwing in. And we now have $3,000 to give to you. And my urge is, what I'm trying to accomplish, every VFW post in this country has a POW flag. Put your money where your flag is. All right, on behalf of VFW Motorcycle Group, Unit 307108, Helotes, Texas, I would like to give you $1,000.
Thank you, sir.
I'm telling you, I brought this 1,000 miles. I kind of got attached to this. You know how hard this is? The second one is from the Helotes Auxiliary for $1,000.
Wow. Thank you, sir.
And the third one is from the Post for $625, and we've already had a private donor that sent $375 in, which would, well, it'll come to $1,000 anyway. And he's already sent that in and got his T-shirt. So here's the other tech, $3,000. Like I said, you VFW people, you fly that flag, let it mean something. Put your money where the flag is. Thank you.
The Ride Home is happy to accept this money, and we really appreciate what everybody does to help raise money for the Ride Home and make this whole event possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. We really appreciate the generosity. Our next guest is, please give a warm welcome to Michael Kuhn, the son of Bataan Death March survivor Philip Kuhn, for a special announcement and introduction. Michael, please come forward. How you doing? You have to come on. We used to have stairs on both sides, but this year it's just on this side. Hi, Sherry. How are you?
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here again. I brought this year, it's special coming here this year because I brought my dad's book. A lot of you have purchased my father's book. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had this lady here that helped make it happen. I like to turn it over to her, let her tell you about how it came about, the book being published, and the time that she spent with my father. My father was very picky about who he wanted to do his book, but as soon as he met Sherry, it was like they had this certain bond together. And so they would just spend hours. She'd either come up on a Saturday or Sunday, and they would sit and talk, and he would just go through his stories and stuff to her. He really opened his heart out to her. So I'd like to introduce Sherry Cass with Cass Publishing that did my father's book called A Soldier's Silent Prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Michael says, Sherry, you're going to speak, and I just go, okay. So here I am, and 2 years ago, I first heard of Mr. Kuhn's story in Oklahoma City at an event, and the crowd wouldn't stop cheering. They wouldn't stop applauding. They were mesmerized by him, as was I. And I thought at that moment, I'm going to write his story. And I fell in love with his story that I donated my time to do the research and the writing and work with Michael and his family. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Kuhn and interviewing him. And the ride home was a special part of his life. And so you all welcomed me last year, and I interviewed several of you all for the book, and I thank you for that. I thank you for your service, and my life has been changed by knowing Mr. Kuhn as well as you all. Thank you.
It's very exciting. I look forward to reading the book as well, so thank you. Our next presentation will be by Vicki and Alina, representing Rolling Thunder's Ohio 1 chapter. Welcome, Vicki and Alina.
Good evening. We're from Rolling Thunder, Chapter 1, Ohio. It is our privilege and honor to be here tonight. I want to give a special thanks to the Ride Home, the merchandise team, also known as Sassy Sisters, Kat, and Doris. Thank you so much for working with us all year long and making this possible. What we have here is the names of all of the POWs who are present this evening. We're going to shake it up. One individual will be given the POW MIA flag over here that is hanging on the wall. It's a nice big one, nice and warm. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to ask this lovely veteran to my right to pick a name. And the recipient is?
First Lieutenant William W. Jeffers.
Where is he? I want to get a picture of it. Oh, there he is. There he is. We'll go down and we'll give him the thing.
Well, congratulations, and thank you, Vicki and Alina. Our next presenters are Kat McLaughlin, Executive Board Member of the Ride Home, and Doris Ingersoll, who is also a board member. Collectively, they are the Ride Home merchandise team. Welcome, Kat and Doris. They are here, I saw them. Am I missing them? Oh, I see, okay. You need some help carrying that stuff up here? Oh, you're bringing my buddy. This is really nice. Hi there.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Thank you.
You stand right here where they can see you. Okay. Hi, as the lead of the Ride Home merchandise team, I am Kathy McLaughlin. This is our helper Rex. He will be drawing the winning ticket from our raffle. We have Doris, Donna, David, all helping us out here tonight. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who comes to the merchandise table, donates raffle items and different things, from Irma Lividus making beautiful handmade quilts to the items that we put together to make the raffle baskets for you. The POW raffle basket. Rex, can you grab a ticket out of this bucket, please? Everyone pull out their, if you purchase tickets, pull out your green ticket, please. No, just one. Let me think. Oh, go figure.
He pulled Doris's name. Do you have your ticket with you?
It's on the table. Dave, did you read the number on it? Yeah, read the number.
Dave, do you have the tickets there? Ticket number 048567.
The green one. Yeah.
Can you go get that ticket for me over there, honey? You see the man with his hand up? Grandma's gonna help. Grandma, can you get the ticket, Grandma? That's a first that one of our own team members have won it. Thank you. Then we have the patriotic basket, which includes handmade scarves, all donated items from spouses of our former prisoners of war. This one is the red tickets. Ticket number 695438. Sherry Cast.
Sure. As I said, Irma Lividus, who is at a granddaughter's wedding, didn't get to join us. This is an Afghan that she handmade. Pillowcases to match.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. You are right, buddy.
One more ticket.
And we're going to pull a blue ticket this time. So everybody pull out their blue tickets that purchased tickets. And let's see what that one is. 6, 7, 4, 6, 1, 2. It has my name. Is this?
She's a winner.
She's a winner. Do you also have that ticket, Dave Maloney?
Guess I got you the winner on accident.
I'm going to donate it back and pull another ticket. Pull another one, baby. I'm honored to say this goes to Patricia Hopper. Come on up, Patty. Ticket 674615.
Hey, I'm 5.
You're 5? Here. All right. Will you carry the bucket for us? Sure. While we're waiting for Patty to come up, I want to show the next two things that will go on our 32 auction site. That is an online auction site that the Ride Home has started, and quarterly we will have items on there. The first item is a shawl made by the Pawnee Nation in memory of Philip Kuhn. Thank you. The second item is a breast cancer awareness. Notice the hand sign language around it. This was donated by Ohio 1 President Winston. These will both be on the auction site next week. We thank you, and we have 50-50 raffle tickets that will be at the Georgia Technical College tomorrow, and will be drawn tomorrow afternoon as well. Thank you so much for your time. Doris wants to donate back the MIA basket. We will pull another name.
No, that one, baby. Yeah. Just don't pull my other ticket, okay?
I think I did.
You think you did?
You think you did? Ticket 048568, Steve Brown. We thank you for all the support you all give and your dedication to the Ride Home. Thank you very much.
And there's one more presentation. Would Mary Shantag please come forward? I've introduced her before. She is a board member of both the Ride Home and Honor Release Return. She has a special presentation.
Over the last 25 years, I've worked in the POW MIA issue, and I've been privileged to meet a lot of people. In some cases, the meetings have led to extraordinary individuals that leave a mark, not only on my life, but on the lives of many. As the daughter of a retired sergeant major and Vietnam veteran, and Roseboro, North Carolina native, this individual has spent decades in service to this country, to women's issues, in and out of the military, and to our veterans, whom she says are the legacy that makes our country so great. Her soldiers knew her sense of humor, from her commenting on the grass growing too high when she walked across Hedekin Field at Fort McPherson, to counting cups of coffee, they said it was 400, or meetings, 500, or video conferences, 100, shared through that same tenure. We'd like to take a moment to recognize a member of the Vietnam Veterans Commemorative Committee, the recently retired Colonel Deborah Grays. She didn't even catch any of that. With the plaque reading, Heart of Gold, Lifetime Achievement Award, Colonel Deborah B. Grays, U.S. Army retired, to honor over 30 years of service, sacrifice, and dedication in recognition of our veterans and active duty service members through diversity, education, late-night note-taking, and cold coffee to ensure that each presentation was flawless. From those whose hearts and souls you have touched across the country, presented this day, 18 September 2015, at the Ride Home. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you again for all of the things that you do for us and for many others as well. So, our next special guest is Major General James T. Jackson, U.S. Army retired, who had a distinguished career in the Army, having served for 32 years. Currently, General Jackson serves as the director of the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration, which has been a commemorative partner with the Ride Home for 3 years. This national effort was instituted by the U.S. government under the auspices of the Department of Defense to do what should have been done 50 years ago: thank and honor Vietnam veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Major General James Jackson.
Thank you for being here today.
Well, good evening, everybody. First of all, let me thank you all for what you did for Deborah. She's been on our staff for a couple of years now, both active duty and since she retired. Does a great job. She's one of about 20 or 30, which I'll talk about here in a minute, who work for me, and I wouldn't be able to do the things that we do every day without that staff. You'd be surprised once a week when we have our staff meeting, they come back from all over the country and they talk about where they've been. And it's really kind of a labor of love. They really get a kick out of getting outside the office, so to speak. So I thank you for recognizing one of ours who do a great job for us. There's only about another 29 that we got to figure out how to do that with every day. First of all, let me pass greetings from Washington, D.C. to the Ride Home folks. To Mo and Jenny Moyer, our thoughts and prayers, obviously. To Bob Bulldog Osley, who's been picking up the slack here a little bit. To the City of Americas, what a great job. Small town USA really is the secret weapon. And if we get out of the city enough, out of DC enough, we can figure that out. What I can't figure out is how to get the rest of the government out of DC for a while and let them figure it out too. But those of you out there got some ideas, let us know. But the weekend's activities are super, and I know the city's been involved in that. To Georgia Southwestern State University, terrific use of your facilities. For those of you who think the president was underdressed, this is what we wear to casual events in DC. The problem up there is we put our ties on too tight and it cuts off the blood to our brains. That's why we got problems. I'd be remiss to not say happy birthday to all our U.S. Air Force brethren. Happy birthday. Small caveat, the Army birthed you, okay? All right. Another little secret, I spent a lot of time with the Air Force. Unfortunately, with all these one-way trips I kept taking. I was always going out the back end at night, and they were headed back to the O Club, and I was out in the middle of nowhere trying to figure out where my troops were. So, interesting stories. Special hello to all the former POWs, obviously, Gold Star families, and of course to the MIA families. I thank you for the opportunity to visit with you today and to share with you what our team is currently doing to recognize the service of you, your families, and your friends. One other thing, how many of y'all served in the Pentagon? Okay, truth, every day out of DC is a good day, right? There we go, all right. Just want to make sure you all are awake after dinner here. As you just heard, I work in DC. I work for the Secretary of Defense. We're basically executing his plan to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. Truth in lending here, I apologize a bit. I'm going to drift off your script because I am focused on Vietnam. However, POWs or POWs or POWs, you all fit the same cut. You've all done the same things. You've all put up with the same kind of problems. And so my hat's off to you. But tonight, my case, I'm talking about Vietnam for the most part. But like I said, I got 20 or 30 people who are working to share a common message, which was delivered by the President back on Memorial Day 2012 at the Wall. The message is simple, that a nation thanks and honors you for your service and sacrifices. This message, along with the 5 core responsibilities given to us by Congress, keep us rather busy, and especially during Veterans Day, Memorial Day, we are moving around the country quite a bit. And so we've got a big schedule coming up the next 2 months. Now, while we tend to be Vietnam-centric, I want to take the small amount of time to reach out to all the other veterans here and their families and thank them for their support and service. Your participation in the social experiment called the United States of America has made a difference in our lives, the lives of our children, and you will continue to influence generations beyond if you stay engaged. I want to thank you for your service, and special thanks to all the families for the support they provided to their loved ones as they served. One of our core responsibilities is to keep up, which keeps us the busiest, is to thank and honor veterans of the Vietnam era, including personnel who were held as POWs and those listed as missing in action. Along with the service members, we also take time to recognize their families. Now, we had to pick dates, and we picked 2 of them. First of all, 1 November 1955, the stand-up of Mag V, as it spun off of Mag I, Indochina, and 15 May 1975, which was the concluding date of the Mayaguez incident, because there are people from Mayaguez who are on the wall. Inclusive between those dates, you are considered an era veteran and will be awarded certain recognitions. This is our 3rd visit to Americus, and we certainly applaud your efforts and this gathering for its purpose and those that it honors. The Vietnam era has also often been described as a painful period in our country, but sometimes out of pain comes good things. As a country, we have waited 50 years to get around to recognizing that fact, but I guess it's better late than never. So here we are at the 50th anniversary of Vietnam, and as a country, we are reaching out to our Vietnam veterans to thank them. And as I thought today, as I was scrubbing my speech here, I thought about some things of what to share with you. The problem is this audience has heard it all, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, you know what it is. You guys have had it all. So I'm not sure I could tell you something new, so I decided I'd tell you something from the heart and something I see every day as I travel around the country and work with my crew. 2 things in particular. strike me both as interesting and meaningful, and enough to mention them to you today. First, as we all know, we have a lot to learn from the individual and collective conduct of our former Vietnam POWs and their families. Second, the reception received by our returning Vietnam veterans was shameful and not worthy of this great country. But the way these veterans dealt with this lack of a reception may offer us a more in-depth appreciation of this generation of veterans. Out of both of these items, there are lessons that need to be passed on and used to improve how we operate as a nation. As to the conduct of our former POWs, we were provided with exemplary examples of conduct under extreme duress, both physical and mental. Not just by a few, but by nearly all of them. It's a rare case when you hear about someone talking derogatory. It did happen, but the POW community has figured out how to deal with that. These actions highlighted two things: the greatness of this generation and the need for adjustments to our code of conduct. Recognition of the greatness of this generation is starting to sink in across the country. We see it as we travel, and this recognition is taking root. Meanwhile, adjustments to the code have already been made, and others will continue to be made as experts review it and apply these lessons. We also learned that the proper care of families is a force multiplier and a real need within our services. Improvements have already been made, but with time, others will be applied. How we care for those who suffer loss or missing loved ones needed a lot of work and seems to speak to our character as a nation. We've got a long way to go still. Many improvements have been made, and working with organizations such as the National League of Families will ensure that the future refinements are in fact made. But the efforts of these families, of the former POWs and MIAs, had an impact on our nation, and because of their action, a nation was forced to act. And what you see is what you get today. Improvements have been made, but more are required. Our returning Vietnam veterans did not come home to national or regional welcomes that we've become accustomed to during the last 10 years. The wounds suffered by these veterans were theirs, and theirs alone. They healed on their own, in some cases, and their families had to deal with losses or the lack of information on their own. Interestingly, the current national response to returning veterans is in large part due to that of our Vietnam veterans not wanting what was done to them to be done to anyone else. As we move across the country, we notice that these older veterans, I hate to say it, that's you guys, but the older veterans that are among us have been the most aggressive and ardent supporters of our newest veterans as they return home and they travel through airports and go back to hometown USA. My hat's off to you for what you're doing. It's making a major difference across the country. Since 2012, we've been actively recruiting commemorative partners across the country. As of today, we have more than 8,800 partners who are conducting events just like this one to be able to reach out and touch veterans across the country. We have 7.2 living Vietnam veterans in this country. We have 9 million family members, roughly speaking, and each of these people need to be thanked for what they did years ago. By the end of this calendar year, we will have participated in over 2,700 events by either attending and speaking or providing materials to help the event meet their needs. By our count, we've reached nearly 450,000 veterans, and right now we stand just a little bit higher than 350,000 family members. This represents a decent start, but we have a lot more to do, and we need a lot of help like this operation here to be able to get to our goals. Any organization that is willing can join us by simply visiting our website This is the paid political commercial here, www.vietnamwar50th.com. Sign up. Now, I think you've got almost the entire town down the street signed up here, so you need to go next door, find the next town. A quick note, I'm sorry, I'll come back to that. As our program has matured, we've seen a growth towards a desire across the nation to come up and meet our needs across the country to recognize Vietnam veterans as we desire. Every day our message gets out to someone new, and with this growth, we get to clear our goal across the entire country. The goal is to reach everyone, give them an opportunity to step out and thank a veteran. Recently, we unveiled an ear pin, which will be given to each veteran and thank them on behalf of the nation. Tomorrow, we'll make that available for those of you who are attending the events. In conjunction with our partners, we've delivered somewhere between 40,000 plus pins. Now, 7.2 million is what we think are vets out there from Vietnam, and so we've got a bit of a way to go. And as you will see tomorrow, we'll be recognizing former POWs and their families of the missing in action. Today's grandfathers and grandmothers were involved in this war, the war in Vietnam, and were made up predominant proportions of the Vietnam era veterans. Their sons and daughters now have children of their own, so we're looking to affect 3 generations of Americans as we continue to proceed down and to reach those veterans. Our Vietnam veterans service had purpose and influenced many. Each veteran contributed in and out of uniform. Those who continued service in uniform helped to shape the changes that have transformed the United States military, and so our hats off to you. The military we see performing today is in fact that which you all passed on to us and is now doing great things across the country. No matter what era you come from, you are owed a thanks from this country. The Vietnam veterans have done much for this country and deserve everything we can give you. It is our turn to turn back and give that thanks back to each and every one of you. You are an example of and a proud one, and one that should inspire and influence generations to come. I'd like to close with a short video here. We've had several videos made for us. One of them here that we brought tonight is one made by the, I guess we're in a hurry. This video was put together by one of our commemorative partners. Yeah. I hope you enjoy this. Please understand that while there might be some parts of this thing that are not necessarily specifically correct, it's done on behalf by an organization given to us, and we think the message is a good one. I'd like you to pay attention to it tonight, enjoy it. God bless all of you. Thank you for doing what you've done, and God bless America.
And that's all pushing at the same time. But they did exaltation, which is the explanation of women and Barbara, this is just the first step. We're going to do everything that you can to find. Are you home?
Thank you, General Jackson, for being here, for spending some time with us this weekend. We are very encouraged to know that at the highest levels of our government, we are doing the right thing at the right time. And so thank you again for taking time to be here with us today. I feel very privileged to introduce to you our next guest, Brigadier General Rhonda Cornum. General Cornum is a surgeon, board certified in urology, having graduated from the Uniformed Services University of the Health and Sciences, first having earned a doctorate in biochemistry and nutrition from Cornell University. She was recruited into the Army in 1978 and retired in 2012 as a U.S. Army Brigadier General, the Director of Comprehensive Soldier Fitness in the Army Staff G357 Division. During her time in the Army, she held many positions of great responsibility, including flight surgeon to a helicopter battalion in the Persian Gulf, commander of a support hospital at Fort Bragg, medical task force commander in Bosnia for S4-9 with 3 subordinate units to Afghanistan for Operation Enduring Freedom, and commander of the Army's military hospital in Landstuhl, during which time Landstuhl cared for 26,000 war heroes, including 6,540 Iraq and Afghanistan battle injuries, just to name a few of her responsibilities and positions. It was during her time as a flight surgeon in 1991, during the Persian Gulf War against Iraq, that she was taken prisoner of war. General Cornum has a most inspirational story of resilience and has helped convince Americans that female soldiers can serve in expanded roles in wartime. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Brigadier General Rhonda Cornum.
Easier to give this talk before I had to watch that movie. That was pretty touching, and you know, I suppose one of the advantages of having been a prisoner is and coming back is that you do have an opportunity to see what the families had to go through, because my husband and daughter didn't know what happened to me, and in fact, I was first reported dead, and I wasn't. So, but you know, in fact, 3 of us were reported dead that weren't. So those families suffered a lot, and there was great celebration, obviously, when they found out the truth. But that was a pretty bad. It was a pretty bad time. My husband was already picking out a place on the farm to make into a cemetery, actually. First of all, this is the first time I've ever come to the Ride Home event, and I hope it's not my last, because it has been a very touching experience. There's nothing I can say about being a prisoner of war that the people. How many people here, by the way, are actually former prisoners of war? Yeah, so I can't tell you a thing. You all learned a lot more about it than I did. Probably the same thing over and over, like, you know, Groundhog Day is here. And I was very fortunate, by the way. You're very fortunate if you're shot down on the last day of a war. Now you can't plan that, by the way, but it is. You just thank heavens that when it does happen that way. But I want to particularly thank and once again, there's 2 wars of people who I had particular, I guess, appreciation for. The first is World War II. My grandfather was a Marine in the Pacific in World War II. And he didn't talk much about it, like most guys did not when they came back. They went off, did their thing on Iwo Jima and Guadalcanal, and came back. But he taught me the most important thing, and that was there's worse things than dying, Rhonda. There's living with dishonor. And I remember that. He said that when I was a little kid, you know. And he never talked about the war. He just talked about that. And whether that was partially his upbringing in rural Kentucky or whether it was the war, I don't know. But whether it's Marines, maybe, I think. But that really stuck. It's one of the 10 things I always remember when I'm trying to decide what to do. You know, and I remember when I was getting shot down, I remember they blew the tailboom off my helicopter, and you know, we crashed, and I didn't have a long time to think about what was going to happen because we were really low when it happened. But I remember thinking, well, at least I'm dying doing something honorable. Thinking about all the dumb things I had ever done, and I could have died, and how I would hate to be facing my last moments on earth and saying, well, I can't believe I did something this dumb. So the dying, you know, that it's better to die than to live with dishonor is a true thing that I think everybody here appreciates. The next group that I can really say thank you to is the Vietnam era people. Now, I didn't pay that much attention to the Vietnam War. I was in, you know, grade school and high school when it was ongoing. But I joined the Army in 1978, so I inherited the people who were my influencers were in fact Vietnam veterans. And I remember when we finally went to the Gulf War, and I was captured, and I had absolute confidence that, like everything else we had done in that war, that they would do everything they could do to get me out as quickly as possible, because they all remembered what happened in Vietnam, and they were never going to let that happen again. And I felt absolutely sure that from Schwarzkopf on down, they were going to come get us. And if they couldn't get us, they were going to they were just going to melt the whole place looking for us. So that really gave me a lot of confidence, which I'm really grateful. I'm sorry you had to suffer a miserable experience for our nation and our Army and our other militaries to change, but it really did. And I felt, whether it was the Secretary of Defense, the President, or our leadership, I felt very confident that they were going to get us out. And my mission changed from I'm going to try to get this guy to I'm going to try to keep myself and the other guys alive until they come get us. Like I said, there's not much I can, my story is pretty much the same as many people's. You go off and try to do something and you feel very confident it's going to be successful, and then it's not. And then you just have to really look at it, mission change. And and then you get captured, and they interrogate you, and they don't tell you anything, and you lose a lot of weight, and it's really painful, and then hopefully you get out. That's the same story that most people have. There's just, luckily for me and unluckily for them, theirs lasted a lot longer. So I'm not going to try to really tell much more about that. But when I came back, I started having to talk about what happened, you know, and some people said, well, you can't talk about it, you shouldn't let anybody know what happened. Well, it happens that there were so few of us, there was like 27 of us total in the entire war, it was hard to pretend that you weren't the one, particularly when you got 2 casts on your arms, everybody knows it's you. And so, you know, they're buying the drinks and whatnot, but you can't drink them because you can't even get your arm to your mouth. So they started asking me, so what's different about you now? And it finally dawned on me, they were expecting me to talk about what was wrong with me. They were expecting me to talk about how I wasn't doing so well. And I guess because they thought that's what would happen to them. I don't know why they had that expectation. I said, well, for a long time I said there's nothing really different about me that I can think of. You know, I went back to work, and I went to do urology, and I went to do command, and life went on. And, but they kept asking. They asked my husband, is she different? And he said, no, she's still the same pain in the ass she always was. And then they asked my daughter, and she said, no, she's just my mother, just like always. So then they, but it kept going on, and I finally said, okay, I will really reflect on this. I was not previously very introspective, so I said, I'll think about that. Maybe there is something different about me. So I thought. And finally I said, okay, here's what's different. I'm a better doctor. I'm a better doctor because previously I had never been sick or injured significantly, and so I really didn't know what patients went through and what they worried about. So I'm a better doctor. I'm a better leader because I'm not afraid. You know, if the worst thing that's ever happened to you is your superior officer writes a bad OER bullet, then you worry a lot about that, sometimes to the detriment of the people below you. If that's not the worst thing that's ever happened to you, then you're very unlikely to be worried about that happening. You're very likely to go on and do exactly what you think is the right thing. So as a better leader, as a better doctor, I was a better family member for sure. If you almost lose your family, you're probably more appreciative. And I think it was that experience that prevented. Somebody said it today about, except for her teenage years, her mother and she got along well. My daughter and I actually got along very well through her teenage years, which was in stark contrast to how my mother and I got along through my teenage years, I'll tell you. It's amazing I survived, or she did. So I would have to say that of the things I could identify as a better leader, better doctor, better family member, I said, well, no, I can't do so many push-ups. I used to be able to do a lot more push-ups, and now, the shoulder isn't so good, and so I can't do 100 in 2 minutes. I'm not sure the Army really cared if I could do 100 push-ups in 2 minutes anyway. And when I got to the Pentagon, I was 100% sure they didn't care. In fact, as I looked around, nothing personal, sir, it was pretty clear they didn't care if anybody could do any push-ups at the Pentagon. I mean, there's a lot of porky choppies there. I'm sorry, but I was there. So I didn't think too much about that. I just went on my life, As it turns out, back in about 1996, somebody named that process of going through something really adverse and doing better, and they call it post-traumatic growth. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody will experience it, but I'm suggesting it's a possibility, and if you don't ever think about the possibility, it's much less likely that you will. If we tell people, and we did this study at West Point, we asked the students at West Point, they're supposed to be the big gung-ho dudes, and dudettes. How many, this was right, everybody was deploying. As soon as you graduated, you're going to go be lieutenant someplace, you're going to go to, either Afghanistan or Iraq. That was like a given. So they asked him what they thought the likelihood was they would have post-traumatic stress disorder. And 95% of the cadets said it was either likely or very likely that if they deployed, they would get that disorder. Now, the actual facts is it's about 7% of the lieutenants who had that. But they had been, inundated by that. So if you expect it, you're probably much more likely to happen. And then we asked how many of them had expected post-traumatic growth or had even heard of it, and it was like less than 15%. Now that's 10 years after it has been in existence as a known consequence of adversity. So I think it is important to realize that what happens to you is important, but what you do with what happens to you is probably more important. And so many people that have had horrible experiences losing family members or not knowing if they've lost family members or being one of the lost family members and coming back after some horrific experiences. Many people that I know have come back and done better than they probably would have if that had not happened. Certainly, many of the former POWs I've met have had that experience. And so I just would ask that people consider and reflect on, okay, yes, this bad thing happened, I got that. It's not, I can't do anything about it. We all wish that we had just gone off, accomplished the mission, and come back safely. Everybody wishes that had happened, but it didn't. And so, since it didn't, what can I do with this? Is there anything else I really want to say about this? No, because I realize that I am the last thing between you and another bottle of Jack Daniels and the luminaries. So I think maybe I would be better served to stop here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for your service, General Cornum, and thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for leaving us with, that thought. I mean, not about Jack Daniels. I meant about the post-traumatic growth. I think I've had some of that over the last few days. I'm sorry. Just didn't know I had a name. So I'm going to call up Kat. She has a few comments prior to Steve singing another song with us this evening. Kat, are you?
Can we do one other thing?
Yes.
I forgot, we have another presentation.
Oh, we have a presentation?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it wasn't on my screen.
My apologies. We've got one other presentation that we missed earlier. Would Mr. Linesbury come up, please? We try to be perfect, but sometimes we're not.
I have a proclamation from Governor Rick Scott from the great state of Florida. It's a POW MIA Recognition Day in Florida. Whereas Florida residents have served honorably in the nation's armed forces, and many of Florida's brave men and women are considered missing in action, causing a grateful nation to mourn their fates. And whereas thousands of Floridians have endured captivity while serving in wars and conflicts fought by the United States. And whereas in fulfilling their duties, Florida POWs have served honorably and protected our freedom. And whereas the POW MIA flag is flown in the Florida Capitol, rest areas along Florida's interstate highways, and at Florida's state parks, as a powerful reminder of those who so faithfully served our country. And whereas Floridians share the pain of the families of POWs and MIAs as they await a full accounting. And whereas the state of Florida commends and endorses the national commitment to account as fully as possible for Americans still missing from our nation's wars. And whereas September the 18th, 2015 is set aside as a time to reflect and pay tribute to Floridians who, in the act of serving our nation, selflessly relinquished their freedom so we may enjoy the blessings of liberty and peace. Now, therefore, I, Rick Scott, Governor of the state of Florida, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing September 18th, 2015 as POW MIA Recognition Day in Florida.
That will probably spark my moment of post-traumatic growth, and we'll be better next year.
So I'm going to call Kat. Can I do it? Can I call Kat? I can call Kat, right, Bulldog? Come on up. Thank you.
Thank you, honored guests, patriots attending the Ride Home 2015, keeping the promise. I'm the Florida State Representative for Honor Release Return. I'm also an executive board member of the Ride Home, and I'm speaking for the entire board of the Ride Home. We are blessed to be gathered here to honor and reflect upon the extraordinary sacrifices made on behalf of this country by you, our former American prisoners of war, and by those who are still unaccounted for. Today, we honor our nation's heroes who knew the hostility of war and the anguish of captivity, true American patriots who sacrificed their freedoms enduring one of the greatest challenges anyone, especially an American, can face, the loss of personal liberty. Many subjected to torture and pain, resisting to the limits of their endurance, showing extraordinary courage time and time again, by gaining strength from each other, from God above, and your love of family to survive this extreme torture, bloody battles, and your captivity. All of you have demonstrated that as American soldiers, you do what is necessary to remain free, and for this, we the people of this republic and the free people around the globe are in debt to you, knowing freedom is not free. Sadly, not every story of captivity ends with a homecoming. Some 83,119 of your fellow comrades still remain unaccounted for. From World War II, the wars Korea, Vietnam, the Cold Wars, and the Gulf Wars. Incredibly, 73,515 are those from World War II, which ended over 70 years. The tragedy of those counted as missing in action goes far beyond those numbers. Each is someone's beloved son, brother, husband, and father. When their country called them, they left behind all they held dear to preserve and to protect their way of life. But then, nothing. Theirs is a war without an ending. For the families, the war has never ended, enduring years, even decades of lonely nights, aching emptiness, held captive in a prison of uncertainty, left to wonder what may have happened to their loved one, what they may have endured, the pain of not knowing. Others tortured by the faint hope that their loved one might still be alive somewhere, praying for rescue. For those of us whose freedoms have been protected by the many generations of you servicemen and women, it's important that we all remember your sacrifices. It's also important that we unite and vow in our hearts to leave no one behind. America needs to do everything in its power to recover the remains of all missing Americans or to resolve the fate of these servicemen. Today's generation of men and women in uniform must know we will keep the solemn commitment to them as they wage war on terrorism around the world. For the sake of all generations to come, it's important we continue to unite and publicly raise awareness, showing our support in the effort to bring them all home, to urge your senators, your congressmen, until they too keep the promise and make it happen. Former prisoners of war and families of those still missing in action, you are forever in our hearts and prayers. On behalf of Honor Release Return and the entire board of the Ride Home, we salute your valor. We thank you for being here tonight. May God continue to watch over and bless this great nation until they all come home.
Hello. How many of you were with us last year? How many of you remember signing the POW Pledge of Allegiance? You'll find on your tables that you have copies of the POW Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of folks that heard it last year were very enamored with it, really wanted to have copies of it and other things, so we provided copies. And before we leave this evening and continue with the program, we would like for one of our honored guests, Mr. Bill Jeffers, to lead us in the POW Pledge of Allegiance. Bill?
This is something surprising coming in sets of three. I've had two surprises already today. One was the blanket over there, blew my mind, and then earlier I was told that I had the honor of representing someone that I know and many of you know in the American ex-prisoners of war over in the West Palm Beach area, Ed Horn. And Ed made these copies up here that you see. There's not enough to go around to everybody, but right among tables here, you'll get to see the Pledge of America, the pledge to the flag, which is the prisoners of war, pledge of allegiance to the flag. I hope if there are any other surprises coming around this afternoon or this evening, that there will be as honorable as this. Please follow the words, read them with your eyes and with your heart. I am an American. I was a POW. I served my country. What allegiance I owe to my flag, to my home of the United States of America. This is my country. I have fought for it, I have been in prison for it, and I have died for it. And to the republic for which it stands. This flag stands for me, for love, my love for family, my love for friends. I do not forsake it when I was beaten, when I was starved, and when I was killed. One nation, under God, indivisible. I am one man. I have one country. I worship one God. Under God, I was protected. Under God, I was saved. Under God, I had care. With liberty and justice for all. My allegiance is to liberty, to justice. My flag represents the best of myself, my effort, my home, my country. I will pledge under the love of God. It is my right, my privilege, my duty. I have earned building up now. Thank you so much. I am an ex-POW. Take nothing more from me. God bless America.
Thank you for leading us this evening in that pledge, sir. We really appreciate it. And now, Chris Van Cleve, will you please come forward for Unforgotten, the promise that we would never forget.
They say that Alzheimer's is not contagious or hereditary. Some say that anyway. But I had my wife go and get the lyrics to the song that I wrote. It was written shortly before the last time I was here. I was here in 2013, and the song was originally written for my father. But as I was writing it, I felt led to open up to the possibility of it being for all unaccounted for Americans from all wars. So lyrically, it's written with that in mind. And shortly before I recorded it, I came across a recording that my father, I swore to myself I would not let this happen in front of all of you, but that my father had recorded his last Christmas in Vietnam. And it was, this was just, I heard it just about 3 years ago. So that went into this process as well. There is a recording made of it. I do have a few copies here with me. And I also had the honor, when I sang this here at the ride home in 2013, of being invited to sing it aboard the float of the DOD's commemoration office for the Vietnam War and the 2013 New York Veterans Day Parade. So this song has a life of its own, and it's no longer my song. It belongs to all of you who understand and resonate with it. Now let's see if I can ride this emotional wave effectively. I don't want my guitar to feel cheated by my voice. You are among the ones who laid it all on the line, willing to give your life for liberty. There are none more brave than each one who gave it all. Hearing that call to stand for freedom, you are not forgotten. Though you've been gone so long, it seems so far away. You are not forgotten. You are the song that we'll remember every day. They said you were lost, some faraway place, no remains found. Years of mystery, unanswered questions, until we hear of news that you were last seen. And you hope that maybe soon we'll find you. You are not forgotten, though you've been gone so long and seem so far away. You are not forgotten. You are the song that we'll remember every day. Whether that highest mountain, or deep beneath the ocean, or in some desert or jungle, we will find you. No matter how long apart, in the memory of our heart, you live on and on. For you are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. Though you've been gone so long, it seems so far away. You are not forgotten. You are the song that we'll remember every day. You are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. Not forgotten.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. So we are coming to the end of our program, and I'm going to call Reverend Dr. Reverend Gass up to give us a short, brief, inspirational thought for the rest for the evening. And after that, Chris is going to come up and he's going to play Amazing Grace. And at that time, the lights will come down and we will put our glow sticks on and we will have our walk of remembrance. But we are going to go out to the buses and head on over to Andersonville for the Illuminary. And so I just wanted to let you know that, and it's been a pleasure. It's to spend the evening with you, and thank you for coming, and until they all come home.
I want to be sensitive to the fact that you've been sitting there for 3 hours. So I have to begin by asking. I have a short version of the message and I have a long version of the message. All those in favor of the short version, raise your hand. All those in favor for the long version, raise your hand. Now the difference between the long and the short is I say it faster. Tonight, I appeal to your core values and the emotions that sustain core values. With the presence of God's Holy Spirit, it is my sincere desire to flame the core values connected with justice. In sharing my collective thoughts and observations, it is our goal that at the end of this evening, we leave here more unified and motivated in our mission and action. As in the past 7 years, I pause to remind you, especially those of you who are brand new, that it's okay to disagree with me. Disagreement is a part of any healthy process. However, first I ask that you listen, not with just your ears, but also with your heart and your spirit. Make room for the Holy Spirit to bring forth witness. To speak on justice, we must begin with injustice. Justice is an act which follows an act of injustice. Hence, the symbol of justice since ancient times has been the scale. Justice, then, is an action that attempts to regain balance. The symbol of our judicial system is a blindfolded patron holding the scales of justice up to the light. Justice attempts to set right what was wrong. Injustice is any act that harms another or others, especially when the injured cannot protect themselves. Injustice is the abuse of power, taking advantage over the disadvantaged, injury or killing the innocent. In essence, any act which opposes the grace of God, the basic human rights of being created in the image of God. Justice, on the other hand, is the intention to rectify the wrong, to balance the scales. Justice seeks to restore what is right in the eyes of God. As U.S. citizens, let us be reminded that our nation was founded upon those seeking justice against tyranny. The cornerstone to the birth of our country was to set free men and women from the injustices of foreign rule. Our hearts should swell as we're reminded that the moral fabric of our government, our culture, our society is the rights established in the Constitution, which guarantees equality and freedom and justice to all. Today, twice now, we have said the Pledge of Allegiance, which assures us of this fact. Without justice being a cornerstone to our identity as a people, we cannot be free. We must guard ourselves from the enemy, and the enemy, people, is apathy. If we ever become apathetic to injustice, we risk the loss of our values and principles that built and sustain our American way of life. Let us never lose our hunger for justice, becoming so comfortable that we fail to become angry when injustice occurs. Allow me to approach this from a very different perspective. Why would God make every human being capable of anger? You don't have to teach a baby to be angry. It knows how to be angry. We teach the baby to label anger and happiness and joy. No. We should be angry 2 times in life. We should be angry when we confront the painful brokenness of sin. And 2, we should become angry when we encounter injustice. Righteous rage empowers one to act instead of being apathetic. This anger protects the innocent, the disadvantaged, empowers to stand firm against overwhelming resistance, to even stand as an individual against overwhelming odds. I do not have to go into great detail to point out that we live in such turbulent times of injustice, especially of social injustice. A time when our middle class continues to shrink, a time when the American dream is not a possibility for many, a time when the moral fabric of our society is being pulled in different directions. My point is this: when an injustice occurs to any one of our citizens, it is an injustice to us all. Again, I say, let us never lose our hunger for justice, becoming so comfortable that we become apathetic to injustice, to those people over there who are different from us. I believe that the biggest reason for the fall of ancient Rome was not the might of their enemies, but the comfortable lifestyles and the apathy of its citizens. There are some who put their faith in government and its judicial systems to seek justice. To them I say, modern justice is based proportionally on the ability to pay. A rich man has a far better chance for justice than a poor man. If justice occurs sometimes in the judicial system, it is by accident. Every time government makes another law attempting to bring justice into our society, it has only led to deeper divisions among the people. Laws attempting to stop discrimination and injustice only lead to bigger dividends among the people. The wealthy become more distant, and the middle class seek more comfort and distraction. Now allow me quickly to chase a rabbit. I am proud to be a member of Ride Home. I have deep appreciation of the efforts to keep politics out of this arena so we can focus on our honored guest. Let me be clear. I am not talking politics. I am addressing right and wrong. I am affirming the mission statement and a call to return to our roots as American people. I am angry when I think about POWs being tortured and treated inhumane. I am angry when I think about another night that the families of the MIAs must go to bed without answers, without closure. I hurt when I think about the last 20 years and the number of tears I've held of a mother, wife, child, or sometimes husbands when a life has been cut far too short too soon. I become angry when I think about Korean and Vietnam veterans and how we were treated when we returned. We should become angry when we think about our current returning service people and some of the various injustices that are occurring. We as a people should be enraged when we hear about 120 young females being kidnapped by evil for the purpose of selling into slavery. We should be angry when we see a picture of a lifeless little 3-year-old boy floating on the Turkish Sea. We should feel something. I am sad and angry that the core values that our great nation was established upon are being replaced with the goals of comfort and apathy, material security. I am afraid for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren that they will trade a comfortable paycheck for not knowing what it means to be a free human being, to lose the innate value of being angry when confronted with injustice. Allow me now to bring this home. You are our guest. When you speak, people listen. You have both personal power and credibility with the American people. When you say, we will not forget, we will not back down until they all come home, you hold the government responsible. As well, the apathetic people cannot look away. Together, let us make a nation to be grateful to those who served in all our country's conflicts. Now, this is the point that I want you to leave here with, and I'm going to slow down and make it clear. I've had to rush through this. I want you to take from here tonight that when injustice occurs to any U.S. citizens, regardless of their race, the color of their skin, their creed, or their preference, it is an injustice to all U.S. citizens. An injustice to any one of us is an injustice to us all. When there's an injustice in this world due to evil, it is injustice to the kingdom of God. Now, may God bear witness to these words. May God empower us in our mission and goals. Again, as I said to you over these many years, until this way we come again, I remain your faithful servant.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that taught me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, light shining as the sun. We know less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.